Arkansas, typically 46 to 50% of all the long grain in the United States of America. And we're telling you half of that comes from just these 5 counties here.
Welcome back to the Purdue Commercial AgCast and our Lessons from the Delta series. I'm Chad Fiechter, and Todd and I spent several days traveling through the Mississippi Delta last summer, talking with farmers, researchers, and industry leaders about how production systems in the region work. In the first few episodes of the series, we explored how farming systems in the Mississippi Delta differ from what many Midwestern producers are used to, from the unique economics of rice, Delta farmland values, to how rice is processed and marketed after harvest. If you haven't had a chance to hear those yet, I'd encourage you to go back and take a listen. One thing that became clear in those conversations is that rice production is a highly specialized system. Managing water, selecting varieties, and optimizing yields requires a tremendous amount of coordination. That's what led us to our next stop on the trip, the Northeast Rice Research and Extension Center located in Poinsett County, Arkansas. Facilities like this play a key role in agricultural innovation, connecting university research to farmers and private companies to test new varieties, production practices, and irrigation technologies. We started asking Tim Burcham, the center's director, to explain what this facility does and why it was built here.
So, can you introduce yourself and tell us where you are?
Yes. Hey, I'm Tim Burcham. I'm the director of the Northeast Rice Research and Extension Center, located just south of Jonesboro and just north of Harrisburg, Arkansas, with the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. I've been on board in this position since 2019. The farm, the total property, 600 acres, there's 500 acres in tillable ground. The Rice Research Mile, and it literally is 1 mile from my driveway to Rice Tech up here. The cool thing about that Rice Research Mile is that with us having Nutrients plots here, Horizon Ag plots here, University of Arkansas plots here, and then all of Rice Tech's varieties at their shop 1 mile away. In this mile, you can view all the prominent rice in the Mid-South. Every variety that is grown in the Mid-South or is potentially being looked at as a forward variety, you can come to this place and that place. And by that, I mean my friends at Rice Tech, and you're seeing every variety that the Mid-South plants. Pretty cool.
Rice Tech is a very important player in rice because they're the primary hybrid.
It's very expensive to create a hybrid variety, and they have, perfected that craft. And so they control upwards of 60 to 70% of the rice acres, long grain rice acres in Arkansas. Purchased this property in 2018. Everything you see today has happened since 2019. So I'm happy to say that, after 5 long years, so we opened the doors. August 30th was our grand opening in 2024. So we've not even been in the building a year. We bought the farm in 18, 600 acres. It's basically a section. It's a section with a corner cut off of it. So we're 1 mile long and 1 mile wide. The soil type here is Henry Silt loam with a little bit of Callaway. And the key thing in locating this station clearly was Highway 1 frontage here, west side of the ridge, which is a Cache River critical groundwater area. So that ridge is really important because on the eastern side of the ridge, you're 60 feet down, you're in the Mississippi alluvial aquifer and quite a bit of water. Over here, in this critical groundwater area, that ridge forms an aquacline, and the Mississippi alluvial struggles to get over here, if you will. So we're drilling down. Maybe, I think I did a test well before we put our deep well in, and we hit a good lens of water, gravel at like 190, and it went to 220. So about a 30-foot seam of gravel that's, high yield water. But that water is declining in this area due to heavy rice production. Other part of this is we're in Poinsett County, and between Poinsett County and Jackson County, it varies from year to year, but that'll be the number 1 rice producing county in the United States, not just Arkansas. And so then when you draw a 5-county area around us in Northeast Arkansas, because many people ask, why'd you build a new station in Northeast Arkansas? When you draw that 5 counties north of I-40, you have half that we supply for the United States. So Arkansas typically 46 to 50% of all the long grain in the United States of America. And we're telling you half of that comes from just these 5 counties here. So very high rice acreage here. And this Henry Salt loam is a primary driver for that. So we're in the soil type that is predominant for this 5 county area. We're having to deal with the same water issues that the farmers in this area are having to deal with. You're going to see numerous reservoirs, including our own. So water, of course, for rice production is critical. And right now you're seeing a lot of, on the west side of the ridge, which is where we are, you're seeing a lot of reservoirs being put in. Mentioned the reservoirs. It's a 32-acre reservoir, and we're bordered on the entire western border with the Langell River. And it's really a cut. That was a part, when we looked at the purchase, it was a farm that had all these features: location, on the west side of the ridge, Henry Salt loam soil, a reservoir, but was largely unimproved from an irrigation standpoint. So we've got 3.1 miles underground pipeline. I'm adding some more this year, be another 1,000 feet added to that. We've got 2 river reliefs back there on the Langell River. We just have 1 deep well, and it actually only came online in like 23. So I did nothing but surface water for the first 2 or 3 years. The fields are divided up as 21 fields here. So the Rice Research Promotion Board group at that time, they wanted us to be able to do field level research, and we've already are accomplishing that. So we have 6 zero grade fields, and then the majority of the others are graded to a 10th. We have 4 fields that are at 03, or, what I call quasi zeros. So that created 13 miles of roads. So we have flow meters on every outlet in the field. So most of the fields have at least 1 riser, but many of the fields, the heavier research fields, have multiple risers in there. And then we put a flow meter on every outlet. So we measure every drop of water goes on, whether it's the lease farmer's land or a research project. We have Aquarius telemetry on all 21 fields. So whether you're in flooded environment with a depth sensor and or subterranean with the tensiometers. And a nice thing about that Aquarius system is that they do kind of a radio link. So we have 1 receiver behind the shop here up on the pole. You got good line of sight. So I only pay 1 sailor bill, which is much better on the cost saving side. But again, the beauty of that is you pick your phone up and you can look at the moisture sensing of every field.
Now, are farms in this part of the country also running similar sort of technology?
Yes. The farmers in this region, I would call most of our farmers pretty tech savvy. And the reason is, you guys know what the labor situation is. And so anything that they can do that enhances their ability to monitor, because an average rice farmer here is going to be I call a small farmer 4,000 acres, and that goes up to 20,000 acres. So, and they won't own 20,000 acres, but they'll own and lease up to 20,000 acres.
One of the things that stood out during our visit was just how different rice production systems are compared to the corn and soybean systems most Midwest farmers are familiar with.
You're going to have your rotation. So unlike some of the other parts of the Delta, they get into some of the clay ground, and it's going to be rice after rice after rice. But in this area, we really are a good rotation base, because you're running from that mutation in the weed population. So the soybean rice rotation really extends your capacity with regard to your weed management program. So that's what we're trying to do here. So in the Previsia world, you go Previsia, then you follow that with Clearfield, then you would follow that by 2 years of beans in the perfect world.
So it's a 4-year rotation.
Yeah, in the perfect world. But most people, if they get into Previsia, they probably would do in a 3-year rotation. It wouldn't hurt you on the planet.
So red rice is what a lot of this is going to deal with. So it's literally red rice.
Previsia has control on red rice and some of the other grasses. Barnyard grass, I think it has some capacity.
And Clearfield's been around longer than Previsia, but it's a big, big problem. It's really hard to get rid of.
The big problem there is red rice, and not as big a problem in Arkansas as say our neighbors to the south.
So weeds you mentioned, are they the same like we have in our soybean fields, like waterhead or something? Or what is it? Is it different down here? What they're worried about?
You'll get some of that too. Pigweed's going to be the big one with soybeans, but in general, rice is totally different.
It's
Right, they're all
barnyard grass.
water weeds.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Nice.
something I've never heard of.
All the sedge.
Sedges and
sedge is a
barnyard
big
grass.
one, and barnyard
Coffee
grass. 'Cause
bean.
it comes out of that water and it literally spreads a canopy over the rice and just like shades it out.
Yeah.
And it's tough too.
It's a monster.
It is like you get out and start yanking on it. It's a tough weed.
Yeah. So yeah, the barnyard grass, if you were to interview any rice farmer here, they're going to say barnyard grass is absolutely the number one problem we're facing right now. And then after that would be sedges. Sedges can be very difficult to handle. FMC has a new herbicide that the university has been testing for a number of years. I can't remember the name of it, but it's still awaiting approval, and it will be our first new mode of action in over a decade.
So I guess I was just asking much similar, which is these are different weeds than what
That's correct.
our farmers in Indiana are fighting in their field.
Correct.
Yeah. Keep in mind that the reason you flood rice is for weed control.
Yeah.
And the weed control there, that the original aspect of that weed control was to pigweed and some of the weeds you're talking about. Upland crops, they can't handle an anaerobic environment. But of course, then as you get going along, you bring along the aquatic weeds that can and do thrive in a flooded environment. But the real reason you flood rice is for weed control.
So while flooded rice is still the dominant system, research here is shaping how farmers understand how newer production systems like row rice might fit in their operations.
Row rice, R-O-W, not to get my southern slang. So row rice is probably 20% of the acres in Arkansas right now. And so row rice production, we've got a graded field. We're going to put the boards in the drain at the bottom. We'll let the bottom third of the field flood up just like it's a flooded environment. I mean, why not? Rice loves it. You just don't like it as much. You got a middle part of the field that transitions depending on when you let water in and rainfall events. And then you got the upper third of the field that is truly upland. Okay. It'll just be furrow. You'll just see wet marks going down through the furrows. And our research is really looking at particularly the fertilization aspect of that. Upland, you can have volatilization losses there that you don't have in the flooded portion, because basically when you put fly urea on into a flooded environment, you lose virtually none of it. I mean, it's maintained in the flood. While fertilized sitting on top of the ground, it starts volatilizing as soon as it starts melting into the soil. So there are some aspects of row rice production that, we're having to deal with. And how do you apply nitrogen to maximize yield based on those three zones in that production system?
And the other piece, it's always harvest time, right? Think about moisture content drying down your field and getting consistency from top to bottom. And so trying to play with the fertility and then the dry down and
row
trying to get all
rice
that right.
has a huge variation.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if I got a flooded field, a zero field, like I'll show you today, and when I pull the boards on it, pull the boards, meaning we're draining it. When we drain that field, then all of it's going to desiccate simultaneously. But in a row rice field, when I pull the boards, the bottom starts draining, and then it's at one moisture content. This up here is at a whole nother moisture content, a lot lower. It's dropping fast. And so, there's some aspects there. The key thing that people like about it is you don't have to pull levees. So you guys drove by today. I'm sure they saw cascade floods where it looked like the whole field was nothing but levees. And then you saw straight levees. Those are graded fields. When you see a straight as an arrow levee, that means that field is graded. But these fields that you saw that were just classic cascade, were just curly slope after curly slope. Yeah, those,
It's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work on your levees, right? Over here in this silt loam, I can pull a levee that's reasonable in 2 passes with a levee plow. I get over into Mississippi County into gumbo clay, and that's 6 passes. So you can imagine the machinery cost of pulling those levees. And then we call those 30-minute soils over there. That means that 30 minutes were their ideal to work. And it's usually during lunch. So they're their own animal. I mean, we create the levees. We go ahead and flat plant the rice. We'll get it up to 2 or 3, 4 leaf, something like that. And then you pull the levees. Rice continues to grow. You get it up there where you're ready to put the first shot of nitrogen on. You fly the nitrogen on, and then we hit it. We flood it, which preserves all that nitrogen. Ideally, you want to fly the plane at 9, flood it at 10, that, because your yeah, every moment that grain's laying on the soil, and we're putting Agritane on there to reduce that. So you've got some time with Agritane coating on the urea, but
you don't want to take
ideally,
risk.
you're coming. The airplane goes by, I turn the water on. So imagine those fields that you saw running each one of those levees 6 times with a 360 horsepower tractor. It's time.
Or you can drag some furrows.
Yeah.
And just plant.
That's right. And so when you do it, when you do it with the standard row rice model, you take all of that out of play. If it's a graded field, and you just pull a poly pipe across the top, turn the water on, go ski that weekend, come back, turn the water on. It's water. So you're going to take a small yield hit, but the ones that implement this, they're willing to take the yield hit for the quality of life.
And cost.
And cost. Water usage, not really much difference. We've not found that it's a huge water saver, but there's still ongoing research in that regard. Commercial farmers, they're going to also seed the levee when they pull a levee. Actually, the levee plows have a seed box on them. That rice will be at a little bit different stage, but because it's up on that levee, it ends up coming in at about the same time, and they'll harvest it. They'll harvest the levees. I mean, think about those fields you saw where there were curlies everywhere. If you didn't harvest the levees, you'd lose half the field. When you look at the rice crop in the United States, and I compare it to the corn crop of the United States, or the soybean crop of the United States, or the wheat crop of the United States, it's a small player. For Arkansas, it's a huge player, although we certainly have more acres in soybean than we do rice. A lot of people don't realize that, but we do. But it's small. And so when we go to the Rice Technical Working Group meeting that's held every other year, I mean, when you come to that meeting, you're going to see everybody that's in rice. You were talking about, we're all academics. So everybody that's in rice is going to be at that meeting. So that's going to be University of Arkansas, LSU, California, Davis, Texas, a little bit of Mississippi, Missouri's got a little bit of rice. Believe it or not, Florida's got a little bit of rice now.
Oh, interesting.
But Florida's total rice is less than one farmer here.
The other very interesting thing I found with rice, there's a lot of rice consumed globally. And so it's kind of like, it's very small in the U.S., but on the global playing field, it's a huge player.
But growing rice is like being in the dairy business. Dairy business is 24/7. Growing rice is 24/7. I mean, there's never a day that something doesn't have to be done in rice, which contrasts to corn and soybean. I mean, soybean, you just plant it, forget it. I mean, I'm going to go spray it twice. I'm done. Water it a couple of times. Rice, plant it. Put the water on it.
Yeah,
Manage the water. Start the fertilization program. Get it to green ring. Put my final boot shot on. Pull the water down. Go in and harvest. Tear the levees down. And so it's just a continuous cycle of, levees break. You have a big rain. You have levees that erode away. You got to go back out there and wait out in the mud, fix it. It's just a very labor-intensive crop compared to traditional row crops. And I would add to that the herbicide resistance, the issues that we're facing and the tools that we don't have in our toolbox right now add to that significantly.
That was our visit to the Northeast Rice Research and Extension Center in Arkansas. Seeing how much infrastructure and collaboration goes into understanding efficient rice production really reinforces how different farming systems can be across the region, even within the United States. Our visit to the Northeast Arkansas Rice Research and Extension Center gave us a firsthand look at the scale and complexity of rice production in the Delta, from water management and irrigation systems to the research that supports one of the most important rice-producing regions in the United States. But while we were out visiting farms and research sites during this trip, we also had some of those unplanned moments. Next week on the podcast, we'll share a conversation we had right in the middle of a field with someone we jokingly started calling the Robot Lady, Sarah Hinckley, the CEO and co-founder of Barn Owl Precision Ag. Her company is building small autonomous robots designed to move through fields and perform precision weeding between plants. It was a fascinating look at how automation might change labor, weed management, and farm technology in the years ahead. So be sure to subscribe to the Purdue Commercial AgCast and join us next week for that conversation. We're also sharing video clips from each stop on the trip over on our YouTube channel, so you can see some of those places firsthand. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.